Welcome, my educator family. Thank you for tuning in to another Strategy Sunday right here in the month of May, where we are looking at how can we increase our lesson planning, how can we increase our student engagement in the online setting. And so this day we have with us Miss Rochelle Harris. She is a special educator and also a science educator, and she is the founder of Care Beyond Reach Academy. She is here to share with us insightful tips on how we can utilize the 4Cs in our lesson planning in our classrooms to help our students to grasp content, to become critical in their thinking, to be collaborative, to communicate, to just be overall effective in the teaching and learning process. Let's have her.
Greetings, educators. Thank you, Mrs. Boswell-Lewis, for inviting me to share with educators across the globe about how they can integrate the 4Cs in their lessons, whether it is face-to-face or online. Educators, have you ever thought about those jobs that existed years ago and are no longer in existence? Let's take a look at a few of those. We have the elevator operator. Those individuals would open and close the elevator doors manually. We also had the aircraft listener, who would use acoustic mirrors to listen to the sound of the enemy's aircraft's engine. You also had the lamplighter, who would use gasoline to go and light the street lamps. And last but certainly not least, a telegraphist or telegraph operator, who would use code to communicate on the radio. Those jobs are no longer in existence today. I'm 100% certain those individuals never thought they would be replaced by machines or technology. So, as educators, it is imperative that we integrate the 4Cs in our lessons so that our students can stay productive and relevant for and in the future. Let's take a look at what the 4Cs are. The 4Cs: creativity, communication, collaboration, and critical thinking. What exactly do we mean by the 4Cs? Let's break it down even further. When we talk about communication, students have to master the art of communication. It is so important that they communicate their ideas clearly, respectfully, and also correctly. Now, it's also important to note that communication does not simply entail writing or speaking or any other modalities that you may use, but a very effective and important part of communication is the art of listening actively. So that is something that we have to take into consideration when planning our lessons. Students have to learn to communicate effectively. How can we help them to do this in the classroom? We have to give them an opportunity to communicate using a variety of media and the different modalities that are available. Give them assignments that will force them to develop this skill. But be it presentation or let's say they have to write a report, those are some of the ways we can integrate the communication, allowing them to interact with the external community, writing emails, talking about, current affairs, interacting with these online platforms. That's also integrating it in your lessons. We move to creativity. Now, students are coming to the classroom with their own packages. They have their gifts, their talents, their strengths, and we have to be able to unbox their gifts. We have to allow them to effectively utilize these talents and skills that they have. Coupling that with their learning styles and multiple intelligence is so important. How can we embrace their creativity in the classroom when we are planning our lessons? Give them choices. Never place limits on your students' creativity. Any assignment that you want to have them do something creative, give them that freedom to explore. Don't put their creativity in a box, because they will blow your mind with the things that they come to the class with. So give them that freedom. The third C that we will look at is collaboration. Now we often hear, teamwork makes the dream work, or unity is strength. I believe those things wholeheartedly, because in every organization, you will have to collaborate, you will have to work with someone, whether it is to achieve a shared goal or an individual goal. So, how do we allow our students to develop this skill? By first modeling that skill. Albert Bandura believes in the social learning theory, and he believes that once you model the desired behavior, then it is a possibility, high possibility, that the behavior will be unearthed. So, as educators, we have to demonstrate what effective collaboration is and also effective communication. So, give the students that opportunity to see what it looks like, and then they can in turn model that. And if you couple this with positive reinforcement and rewards, I'm 100% certain you will have a productive and fruitful lesson. Students have to learn to work together. Now, if you give students the opportunity to work together, you must have accountability protocols in place. That is the only way you will ensure you have effective collaboration. Don't just give them a task and say you and you go work together. No, you have to have collaborative accountability protocols in place. How can they document their work? How can they document their progress? Keep track of it. So there has to be some reward to that as well. What is the reward of us working effectively with each other? So those are some ways you can think about putting that, integrating that in your lesson. Last but certainly not least, critical thinking. The art of critical thinking is really asking good questions, not speaking from your opinions, emotions, or from a subjective perspective. So, as an educator, you too have to demonstrate what critical thinking is like, because students again will model the desired behavior once you demonstrate what that looks like. In your lessons, utilize different strategies to evoke this critical thinking skill. What are some of these strategies that you can think of? Using comprehension. In fact, I did a recent study on critical thinking, and the findings proved to be that comprehension skills, giving them comprehension passages and asking questions from the passage is one way to help with this skill. You can also engage them in writing activities, active reading activities. How can they benefit from these activities? You too, as an educator, constantly ask good questions in the classroom that will eventually allow them to see what good questions are like. Of course, they're not limited to just what you ask in the classroom, but most certainly they would have an idea of what a good question is. Critical thinking is geared towards getting facts and getting the answers, but not putting your own opinions to things. Problem-solving activities, case studies, all of those activities will help with critical thinking. Now, I'm going to explain and share with you some of the examples of how I integrate the 4 C's in my class. Now, I teach first form, second form, fourth, and fifth form. So I will give you one topic from each grade level and an activity that I utilize to bring forth the 4 C's in my lesson. Starting with first form, they had to do a topic on measurement. Now, measurement entails using the ruler, scale, thermometer, all of those things. Now, how does measurement play a part in construction? So here what the activity was. Students had to build their dream school. Yes, build their dream school. In building their dream school, they had to create their own design, come up with their own floor plan. for their school, their dream school. In doing that, they could utilize recyclable materials and build a physical school, or they could use online applications to create their 3D school. Now, I tell you, I've learned a lot from my students in this process. They utilize the game Minecraft. They also utilize an online platform known as Dream Plan, NCH software. I've never heard of those softwares before prior to giving them this activity. So in the process, I also have learned, and that's their creativity coming forth. Now they had to communicate the inspiration behind their design. What inspired the design? So they had to learn how to explain themselves, communicate effectively, market their school. Why is their school the best school? Then they also had to bear in mind the topic, measurement. So they had to tell us how measurement played a role in the construction of their school. When it came on to collaboration, they were not necessarily working in groups, but collaboration goes beyond just working in groups. They were able to select experts among themselves to showcase their schools and also give ideas. They also had experts among themselves to walk them through these platforms and softwares that they could use to develop their school. So they shared with each other the features of these online platforms, especially for those who didn't know about it before, like myself. I too learned from my students who were collaborating with each other, sharing information, sharing best practices. And when it comes on to critical thinking from that activity, students had to talk about the relationship between measurement and safety. Now, it sounds odd, but when you construct a home, a business place, whatever it is that you design, how does that implicate safety? How does that benefit the economy? What is measurement? What does measurement look like in reality? So students had to dig deep, ask questions to get those answers, to come and communicate that to the class. So that's for first form. Second form, we looked at photosynthesis. Students had to design a resume for the leaf. Yes, sounds weird, but they had to design a resume for the leaf. Now, how did they do this? They had to market the leaf, talk about the different skills that the leaf had. How can this leaf get the job of photosynthesis? Why would my leaf be the best leaf? They worked in groups. Some students decided to do it independently, and that's okay. But they worked in groups, they collaborated, shared ideas. Some students even went ahead and gave their leaf bow ties. So it was just amazing to see the creativity unfolding and then communicating with us, marketing their leaf. Why is this leaf the best leaf for the job? Critical thinking jumping in. How is the leaf important for all life? How do we ensure that we are in existence by just looking at one leaf? They had to talk about the impact of photosynthesis on the wider ecosystem, and then they also had to talk about the impact of the Amazon fire, because at the time that was something that was going on, and they had to link the implications there. What would happen if we lose our trees? What could be the economic distress? What could be some things that we have to consider as a people? So they are utilizing current affairs and using the topic of photosynthesis to explore those things. You know exactly what the leaf is responsible for. If you lose them, what's going to be the effect of that? And so that's second form. When it came on to fourth form, we were doing respiration one year, and they had to create a jingle or an Instagram advertisement, right? And these students were focusing on vaping and smoking and their effects. Now the creativity is the jingle being put together, the lyrics, and of course to do this, the content is so important. So understanding the content, being able to put it in a lyrics format, creating a beautiful jingle, adding your music, your rhythm to that, and then of course having your Instagram design, whether they did it in Photoshop or any other online platform. They had no limitations. They chose what they wanted to use to design their flyers, and then they had to communicate that. They had to communicate their effects of vaping and smoking to the class. And then when it came on to critical thinking, how would smoking and vaping affect education? How would it affect the economy? So those are some of the things that they had to focus on for critical thinking. And last, grade level, fifth form. So they were doing a locomotion project. They had to make a working model of the arm. They had to compare the structures in an invertebrate that allowed it to move. They also had to compare that movement structures in the chicken. And they had to, observe, dissect a chicken to get the bone and everything, to look at it, compare that to a human arm, and, talk about the importance of movement. What would happen if organisms were not able to move? What implication would that have on everything that we can talk about in society? If you can't move, how does that affect your health? If you can't move, how does that affect productivity? So they had to think about all these things, right, and communicate that with the class. So they had to do a report, a written document, and they also shared it with their peers and myself. So there are several ways in which we can integrate the 4 C's. It doesn't matter the subject area that you teach, because all subjects have 4 basic principles, which are the 4 C's, that must be evoked in order to create 21st century learners who can stay relevant for the future and, of course, be part of the revolution in education. So I really want to thank you for having me, and I really hope that these activities were something that you could utilize in your classroom, or give you some inspiration of how you can integrate the 4 C's in your lessons. Thank you so much again for having me. Bless you. Take care.
Educators, I just want to say a special thanks to Miss Rochelle Harris for tuning in with us today and for sharing these valuable tips. I benefited a lot from the 4 C's that she shared with me, giving me insight into some additional ways in which we can utilize the 4 C's to help our students to become reflective thinkers, to become critical thinkers, and also to be able to grasp content as we prepare them for the world of work that is to come after leaving high school. Educators, I am sure you felt the same way too. Thank you, Miss Harris, for coming and sharing with us these valuable tips. Educators, I know that you have benefited from this video. Why not go ahead, like, share your comments in the comment section below. Let us know how this was for you. And by any chance you may have not yet subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. You may have colleagues who may want to hear this valuable information. Share this video with them. And if you have not yet been listening in each week, you need to start doing so, because this is Strategic Educational Consultancy Services. I am Carla Boswell-Lewis, the director, and my only mission is to empower you educators by bringing you valuable tips that will help you to navigate this new normal, and also to reset your position for when this new normal is over or when it continues, that you are equipped with valuable information. Thank you so much, educators, and we look forward to seeing those comments, seeing you interacting with the videos and sharing it with others as well. We look forward to having you for Analysis Thursday, where we do a deeper reflection of the 4 C's in lesson planning for the online or the physical classroom and how it can help us all. Take care and enjoy this week ahead.